Welcome to another of our podcasts on the Fruitful Field consultation process. The consultation started on the 17th of October. It runs right through to Christmas, ending on the 23rd of December. So these podcasts are going to make a lot more sense to people if you've read the consultation document, and you can find that at www.methodist.org.uk/Fruitful Field. It's quite a big document. We'll be talking about some of the proposals here, and it'll make a lot more sense if you have a look at that webpage first. We promised 3 podcasts in total, but we've had some feedback. People said the first one was too long, so we've decided to do some shorter ones, and we'll focus on particular themes. Today we're going to be looking at the issue of diversity and our ecumenical relationships, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Reverend Helen Cameron. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you.
You're a Methodist minister, but you're also a consultant to the Ministries Committee. Now, that's not the same as being on the Ministries Committee, and you're also a member of the Faith and Order Committee. How do you fit into that? What does being a consultant to the Ministries Committee mean?
I think the first thing it means is that I'm not a voting member of the committee, and I'm one of a number of consultants who are working with the Ministries Committee at the moment. And my understanding is that actually over the life of the committee there will be other consultants drawn in who have got either experience or insight or exposure to some of the important areas that the Ministries Committee needs to bear in mind as it does the work on the Fruitful Field project, but also other pieces of work.
And where are your particular expertise that have been brought in?
Yes, I mean, I was asked to serve as a consultant because I convene one part of the Faith and Order network, which is ministries and mission. And I think I understand that I was asked to serve as that, in that role on Faith and Order, because I've been involved in theological education for 20 years and more. I work in an ecumenical environment, and I've been involved in the formation of ministers since the late 80s.
So what's your take on how the whole process has worked since conference last year said to the Ministries Committee, we want you to do this big piece of work, report back to us next year? How have you felt the kind of process has worked?
I've found it one of the most exciting pieces of work I've been involved in Methodism, because it's a piece of work that's visionary. People have approached a set of issues that present the church at the moment, and they have seen that they want to not just get short-term fixes, that they're concerned for the life of the Methodist Church and its people, and they want to work both strategically with good use of resources, but they want to say, who are we under God and before God, and what does God require of us? And therefore I've found it to be a thoughtful process, a reflective process, prayerful, and has been a really good example how quite diverse people on that committee have listened to each other really well.
I must just apologise to anyone who can hear the immense traffic noise outside this office. We are just by Marylebone Road in London, so my apologies to anyone who can hear that coming over the recording, but we will press on. Now, a lot of the questions we've been seeing coming out of the consultation since it started on social media, in the emails we're getting, in the conversations we're having, are around ecumenism, because a lot of the training we do is ecumenical or has an ecumenical dimension, either with working with other churches in particular institutions or our involvement in regional training partnerships. What's the current face of the ecumenical dimension of our training, our theological education across Britain at the moment?
It is a diverse pattern. There isn't just one way of working ecumenically. I think our 3 main training institutions engage with ecumenical partners slightly differently. And so there are different models already at work. And then I think if you add in how people are working through regional training forums and regional training partnerships, it becomes even more diverse. So there isn't, I think, an ability for us to say that there is one model that we wish necessarily to endorse at this stage. I think we need to be very open about how we develop ways of working with ecumenical partners in the field of learning and training. I would want to say that we have to be consistent with our commitment to either a covenant partner or indeed to working with some of the interesting range of ecumenical partners, Black Pentecostals, URC, all kinds of different partner churches we're involved with in various locations. So I think it's been important for the Ministries Committee to do the work of exploring what is it that the Methodist Church is required to do, but also what can it do as a connectional church that other churches may not be able to do at a time of limited resources? Can it actually offer something really distinctive to the wider church in terms of excellence of learning and training and formation, and invite others to join them in that process?
Well, I think that's the question lots of people are asking, is that if we do move to this single physical hub, plus obviously the networks that will come with that are proposed in the document, then that implies withdrawing from all our other networks, institutions, organisations with which we're currently linked, and therefore all those partnerships. So we're kind of, is it a retreat from those relationships?
I would, I think, prefer to use the language of amalgamation, of focused location, and because already the current pattern is diverse, a single hub does not necessarily mean a retreat from locations, from relationships. I think it means a reordering. And Methodism as a church always seeks to do things with other churches. This is not about creating a silo in which we go away and hide in it, away from the world and away from our other partner churches. We're involved at every level of the life of the church, it seems to me, from local churches, from near neighbours, from all kinds of pieces of work that we do both at national level and at local level with other partners. I think it behoves us as a church, as we seek to do something important and radical and bold and strategic with our limited resources, to say who else will want to join us in this.
So is it a case of, rather than kind of piggybacking what other people have been doing for a very long time, a kind of actually forging a new way and then inviting others to join us? Is that the kind of approach people are thinking about? That's
certainly one way to express it. I think it's important not to be romantic about some of our existing relationships. Some people have trained ecumenically, and what that has meant, and at this point I'm referring to those training for ordained ministry, it's meant one student or two students or three Methodist students with 40 others of another denomination. I think it's very hard to have a voice at that point and to have your tradition explored well and to be able to represent it well to such a much bigger group. And certainly in the last 5 years we've sought to concentrate I think critical mass of students for ordained ministry in a location in order for there to be a life and an identity. But I think it is still possible to work towards creating new patterns of learning and training, which are not necessarily about a full-time residential community of everybody being in one location. My understanding is Methodism will always want to train and resource its ordained ministers, but also its lay workers, its lay employees, its local preachers, in ways that make them really confident in engaging with others of other churches and other traditions. And I think the single hope and the pathways that are planned will allow that. This is about, I think, raising confidence.
And one of the other questions people have been asking is about the diversity. You know, we have 21 Methodist-sponsored institutions, we're calling them, which is quite a vague term, but covering quite a diversity of different types of training resource around Great Britain. Huge diversity of theology, of scholarly approach, of ways of doing training is expressed across those. Is there a danger that if we have one single hub, as proposed in the report, that we lose that diversity, that we lose that, not just of theology perhaps, but also of the kind of approaches to training?
I understand that fear. Although I have to say that one of my excitements around the vision of the single hub is that what it does is remove the tendency to separatism which we currently have. I have said that Methodism at the moment reminds me of an old lady with tins on her mantelpiece, one marked gas and one marked rent and one marked sweeties, that actually what we're doing at the moment is we are a broad church, and I love it that we are, but we're keeping those separate traditions or ecclesial identities or ways of expressing faith in all those locations, all those institutions. And if you drew that together, I think rather than have loss, you would actually have enrichment, because you would have greater exchange of ideas. I currently work in an environment where there is profound diversity of both denomination and tradition in one location. This is a community who live together, eat together, pray together, learn together. And I'm utterly convinced that learning is greater if you learn with and alongside and from people who are much different to you and to what you currently think.
Is there not a danger, though, that when you do kind of mash all those traditions together, that you get one particular strong group that then dominates?
My experience has been not. I think this is about how you create a group of tutors and teachers and trainers and those involved in formation. I think you have to work and create a structure that allows good, careful listening. I have found people flourish by being allowed to, at the same time as they put roots down into their own tradition or their own part of the life of the church and their own understanding of what it is to be a disciple and to live things out in faith, to be also able to reach out to others at the same time. If you actually are in separate places or in separate locations, what can happen is you put your roots down in that place's way of doing things, and learn to spread out afterwards, only you're already too rooted at that point. I think you get most growth and most development, and that's been my 20 years experience, when actually you are in an environment where staff, students, learners are almost as different from each other as they can be. And I think we would have a church that had learnt each other's language a lot more, and didn't separate out those who do mission and evangelism from those who know a lot about the ordering of the life of the church. It's actually been the separation out of mission from ministry that has, I think, is influential in bringing us to the point where we are as a church now. We've actually seen that as somebody else's job to do mission and evangelism, rather than actually those who train for ordained ministry to see themselves, yes, as pastors, yes, as preachers, but also as those who know what it is to do mission and know what it is to share an evangelical faith.
Well, Helen, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. If you're listening or watching and you want to check out more of the Fruitful Field podcasts, you can find them at methodist.org.uk/Fruitful Field. We'll make sure all the links are there. And please, please don't forget that if you have a particular view on any of the proposals contained in the document, you must let us know what they are. Let us know by the 23rd of December, otherwise you've missed your chance. So that's 23rd of December on that web address, methodist.org.uk/Fruitful Field. Thanks ever so much for your time.